The basement smelled like wet dirt and old wood. Detective Ryan Cole held his flashlight with shaking hands as he walked down the narrow stairs. Behind him, 2 police officers moved slowly, their boots creaking against the steps. At the bottom of the basement was a locked metal door. "Open it," Ryan whispered. Officer Grant hit the lock with a crowbar. Once. Twice. Crack. The door slowly opened. And then everyone froze. Inside the tiny hidden room were dozens of photographs covering the walls. Pictures of missing people. Children. Teenagers. Adults. Some photos were old and yellow. Some looked new. In the center of the room sat a wooden chair with ropes tied to it. Ryan's stomach twisted. "Oh my God," one officer whispered. Then Ryan noticed something else. A small red notebook sitting on the table. He opened it carefully. Every page contained names, dates, addresses, and beside some names were 2 terrifying words written in black ink. "Taken successfully." Ryan felt cold sweat run down his neck, because he recognized the handwriting. It belonged to Daniel Harper, the quiet neighbor who lived on Willow Creek Road, the friendly man who waved at everyone every morning, the man who coached Little League baseball, the man nobody ever suspected. But before Ryan could say another word, a loud noise echoed upstairs. Bang! The front door slammed shut. The officers looked at each other. Someone was inside the house. And they were not alone anymore. 3 months earlier, nobody in the small town of Ashton Hills had any reason to fear Daniel Harper. Daniel was 38 years old. He lived alone in a neat blue house with a white fence. Every Saturday morning, he washed his truck while country music played from an old radio. Kids liked him. Parents trusted him. Old Mrs. Carter from next door always smiled when Daniel carried her groceries inside. "You're such a kind young man," she often said. Daniel always smiled back politely. "Just helping out." He worked at Harper's hardware store downtown. The store had belonged to his father before he passed away years earlier. Daniel knew almost everyone in town by name. He remembered birthdays. He gave discounts to struggling families. He even donated money to the local animal shelter. To most people, Daniel Harper was the perfect neighbor. But strange things had started happening in Ashton Hills. First, a teenage girl named Lily Dawson disappeared after walking home from school. The police searched everywhere. No sign of her. No witnesses. Nothing. The town became nervous, but after weeks passed, life slowly returned to normal. Then another person disappeared. A delivery driver named Marcus Reed. His truck was found abandoned near the woods outside town. Again, no clues. Parents started locking their doors at night. Children stopped riding bikes after sunset. Still, nobody suspected Daniel. Not even Detective Ryan Cole. Ryan had grown up in Ashton Hills. He knew Daniel since high school. Daniel had always been quiet, smart, a little awkward maybe, but harmless. At least that's what everyone believed. One rainy evening, Ryan stopped by the hardware store just before closing time. "You hear about the missing driver?" Ryan asked while Daniel counted money at the register. Daniel nodded slowly. "Terrible thing." Ryan sighed. "This town's getting scared." Daniel looked up and gave a small smile. "People panic easily." Something about the way he said it made Ryan uncomfortable. But the feeling disappeared quickly. Outside, thunder rumbled across the dark sky. "You locking up soon?" Ryan asked. "Yeah," Daniel replied. "Just a few more minutes." Ryan waved goodbye and left. As Daniel watched him walk away through the window, his smile slowly disappeared. That night, heavy rain covered Ashton Hills. Most people stayed inside their homes. But 12-year-old Emma Collins never made it home from her friend's house. Her bicycle was found lying near the edge of Blackwood Forest. One wheel was still spinning when police arrived. Ryan stared at the bike with a sick feeling in his chest. 3 people gone. No answers. No suspects. And somewhere in the darkness, someone was watching the police lights flash through the rain. Watching quietly. Waiting patiently. And hidden deep beneath a peaceful blue house on Willow Creek Road, A locked metal door remained shut tight in the basement. For now. Rain poured heavily outside as Detective Ryan Cole stood beside Emma Collins' bicycle near Blackwood Forest. Police lights flashed red and blue across the wet road. Officers searched the trees with flashlights while Emma's parents cried beside their car. Ryan felt sick. 3 people had vanished in less than 4 months. And still, the town had nothing. No fingerprints. No camera footage. No witnesses. It was like the missing people had simply disappeared into thin air. Officer Grant walked over carefully. "We found footprints," he said. Ryan looked up quickly. "Where?" "Near the trees. But the rain ruined most of them." Ryan followed him into the muddy woods. The air smelled wet and cold. Branches snapped under their boots as they moved deeper into the forest. Then Ryan stopped suddenly. A small pink backpack hung from a broken tree branch. Emma's backpack. Ryan rushed toward it. Inside were school papers, crayons, and a half-eaten candy bar. But one thing caught his attention immediately. A tiny silver key. Ryan held it carefully. "What's this?" Grant asked. Ryan shook his head slowly. "I don't know." Back at the police station, Ryan sat alone at his desk staring at the silver key. It looked old. Rust covered the edges. He checked Emma's house first. The key belonged to nothing there. Then he checked her school locker. Still nothing. Hours passed. The station slowly emptied as officers went home for the night. Ryan rubbed his tired eyes and leaned back in his chair. That was when he noticed something strange. The key had tiny letters scratched into it. BW Storage. Ryan sat upright immediately. Blackwood Storage. An old storage building near the edge of town. Ryan grabbed his coat and hurried outside. The rain had finally stopped, but thick fog covered the roads as he drove through Ashton Hills. When he reached Blackwood Storage, the place looked abandoned. Rusted fences surrounded the property. Most of the storage doors were covered in dust. Ryan walked slowly down the rows with his flashlight. Then he found it. Unit B, 14. The lock matched the silver key perfectly. Ryan's heart pounded. He unlocked the door carefully. The metal door screeched loudly as it rolled upward. Inside sat an old wooden table. Nothing else. Ryan frowned. Empty. Then his flashlight landed on something sitting on the table. A photograph. Ryan picked it up slowly. It showed Emma Collins riding her bicycle. The photo had clearly been taken secretly, and written across the bottom in black marker were the words, "Pretty little liar." Ryan's blood ran cold. Then he heard movement behind him. He spun around quickly. Nobody. Only darkness and fog. Ryan stepped outside the storage unit carefully, scanning the area. Silence. But then, crunch. Footsteps. Running footsteps. Ryan took off immediately. "Hey!" he shouted. A dark figure sprinted between the storage buildings. Ryan chased after them, his boots slamming against the wet pavement. The figure moved fast. Too fast. Ryan rounded a corner and suddenly crashed into a metal fence. The figure was gone. Ryan breathed heavily while looking around. Then he noticed something caught on the fence wire. A piece of dark blue fabric. Ryan pulled it free carefully. It looked like part of a jacket. And on the inside collar was a small stitched logo. Harper's Hardware Store. Ryan froze. Back at the station, Ryan placed the fabric on his desk and stared at it for a long time. His mind raced. Daniel Harper. No, it couldn't be. Ryan remembered Daniel coaching baseball games, helping old neighbors, smiling kindly at children. It made no sense. But deep inside, Ryan felt something growing stronger. Fear. The next morning, Ryan drove to Harper's Hardware Store. Daniel stood behind the counter organizing paint cans. He smiled the moment Ryan walked in. "Morning, Ryan." Ryan forced a smile back. "Morning." Daniel noticed Ryan studying him carefully. "Everything okay?" Daniel asked. Ryan looked down briefly. Daniel was wearing a black jacket, but one sleeve looked torn. Ryan's stomach tightened. "Busy night?" Ryan asked casually. Daniel glanced at the torn sleeve for only half a second. Got caught on a nail in my garage. Ryan nodded slowly. Then Daniel leaned forward slightly. You look tired, Ryan. Ryan forced a laugh. Long week. For a moment, neither man spoke. The silence felt heavy. Then Daniel smiled again. You should get some rest. Ryan left the store feeling uneasy. Something about Daniel's eyes had changed. Cold. Empty. Like there was something hiding behind them. That evening, Ryan returned home exhausted. He tossed his keys onto the kitchen table and turned on the television. Breaking news filled the screen. Another person was missing. This time, it was 16-year-old Noah Bennett. Ryan stared at the screen in horror. Then his phone rang. Officer Grant's voice sounded shaky. Ryan, you need to come to Blackwood Forest right now. What happened? Grant hesitated. Then he finally spoke. We found a body. Detective Ryan Cole drove faster than he ever had before. The roads through Ashton Hills were dark and empty as police sirens screamed through the night. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. A body. After months of disappearances, they had finally found one. But Ryan feared what they were about to see. When he arrived at Blackwood Forest, flashing police lights covered the trees in red and blue shadows. Officers stood silently near a muddy clearing deep inside the woods. Nobody spoke. Ryan stepped under the yellow police tape carefully. Officer Grant walked toward him with a pale face. You should prepare yourself, Grant whispered. Ryan nodded slowly. Then he looked down. And froze. The body lying in the mud was Marcus Reed, the missing delivery driver. Or at least what was left of him. His clothes were dirty and torn. His face looked pale under the flashlight beams. Thick rope marks covered his wrists. Ryan swallowed hard. But something else caught his attention immediately. Marcus' right hand was clenched tightly around something. Ryan knelt carefully and opened the fingers. Inside was a small gold button. A button from a flannel shirt. Ryan stared at it silently. Because he had seen that exact kind of shirt before. Daniel Harper wore them almost every day. Back at the station, fear spread quickly through Ashton Hills. News reporters crowded outside the building. Parents refused to let children leave their homes. The town was falling apart. Inside his office, Ryan pinned photographs and evidence across a large board. Lily Dawson. Marcus Reed. Emma Collins. Noah Bennett. And now Marcus was dead. Ryan stared at Daniel Harper's photo for a long moment. Could he really be capable of this? Ryan remembered high school football games, birthday parties, fishing trips at the lake. Daniel had always seemed normal. Quiet, yes. But evil. Ryan didn't want to believe it. Still, the evidence kept pointing toward him. The torn jacket. The strange photo in the storage unit. The button. And then Ryan remembered something else. The basement. Years ago, Daniel once mentioned that his father built a storm shelter under the house. Ryan suddenly stood up. Officer Grant looked over. What is it? Ryan grabbed his coat. We're getting a search warrant. 2 hours later, police cars quietly surrounded Daniel Harper's house on Willow Creek Road. The neighborhood was silent. Porch lights slowly turned on as nervous neighbors peeked through curtains. Ryan stepped onto Daniel's front porch and knocked hard. No answer. He knocked again. Still nothing. Grant looked at Ryan nervously. Maybe he ran. Ryan's heart pounded. Break it open. Crash. The officers forced the door open and rushed inside with flashlights raised. Police. Silence filled the house. The living room looked perfectly normal. Everything was clean and organized. Family photos sat on shelves. Country music played softly from a radio in the kitchen. But Daniel Harper was nowhere to be found. The officers searched every room carefully. Nothing. Then Ryan noticed something strange near the basement stairs. Mud. Fresh mud. Ryan slowly walked downstairs. The basement smelled damp and cold. Old shelves lined the walls. Tools hung neatly beside workbenches. At first glance, nothing looked unusual. Then Ryan saw it. A scratch mark on the concrete floor. like something heavy had been dragged recently. Ryan followed the marks carefully until he reached an old metal cabinet against the wall. "Move this," he ordered. The officers pushed the cabinet aside. Behind it was a hidden metal door, exactly like the one Ryan had seen months earlier in his nightmares after the first disappearance. Ryan's chest tightened. Grant swallowed nervously. "You think someone's inside?" Ryan stepped forward slowly and tried the handle. "Locked." "Crowbar," Ryan said quietly. The metal screamed loudly as officers forced the door open. The smell that came out made everyone step back immediately. Rotten. Terrible. Ryan lifted his flashlight slowly, and his blood turned to ice. The hidden room was covered with photographs. Hundreds of them. Pictures of people all over town. Children playing. Women shopping. Families eating dinner. All secretly taken. One entire wall was covered with photos of Emma Collins. Another wall showed Noah Bennett. Then Ryan saw something even worse. A wooden chair in the center of the room with ropes attached to it. Beside the chair sat a camera. And on the table nearby were dozens of videotapes labeled with names. Grant looked sick. "Oh God." Ryan moved carefully toward the table. Then he noticed a notebook. He opened it slowly. Inside were pages filled with names and dates. Some names had check marks beside them. Others had only one word written beside them. "Soon." Ryan's breathing became heavy. This was real. Daniel Harper had been hiding something terrible for years. Then suddenly, beep, a noise echoed somewhere upstairs. All the officers froze. Beep, beep. Ryan looked upward immediately. What was that? One officer ran downstairs quickly, panic on his face. "Detective," he shouted. "There's a timer in the kitchen." Ryan's eyes widened. "What kind of timer?" The officer's voice shook. "A bomb timer. Everybody out now." Ryan screamed. The officers ran upstairs as fast as they could. Beep, beep, beep. The sound grew louder with every second. Ryan burst into the kitchen and spotted the device taped beneath the table. A digital timer blinked red numbers. 1 minute and 24 seconds. Officer Grant cursed under his breath. "It's real." Ryan grabbed his radio immediately. "Evacuate the neighborhood. Move everyone back now." Outside, police officers rushed from house to house, yelling for families to leave. Neighbors stumbled into the streets wearing pajamas and coats, confused and terrified. Mothers carried crying children. Dogs barked wildly. The peaceful street had become chaos. Inside the house, Ryan crouched beside the bomb carefully. Wires twisted together beneath sticks of explosives. Grant looked pale. "Can you stop it?" Ryan swallowed hard. "I used to work bomb cases in Chicago," he said quietly. "But if I cut the wrong wire?" The timer continued ticking down. 58 seconds. Sweat rolled down Ryan's forehead. He carefully examined the wires. Red, blue, yellow, black. Then he noticed something taped beside the timer. A folded piece of paper. Ryan opened it carefully. The message inside made his blood run cold. "You were always too late." Ryan's hands trembled. Daniel had planned this. Maybe even expected them to find the basement. Grant whispered nervously, "Ryan." 41 seconds. Ryan stared at the wires again. Think. Then suddenly he remembered something from years ago. Daniel loved puzzles. In high school, Daniel once told him something strange during science class. The answer is never the obvious choice. Ryan looked back at the bomb. The red wire looked almost too obvious. Too easy. His breathing became shallow. 29 seconds. Outside, sirens echoed across Ashton Hills. Rain began pouring again. Ryan slowly reached toward the black wire. Grant grabbed his arm. "You sure?" Ryan wasn't sure at all. But there was no time left. 18 seconds. Ryan closed his eyes for 1 second. Then he cut the black wire. The timer instantly stopped. Silence. Nobody moved. Grant stared at the frozen numbers. 17 seconds. Then he let out a shaky breath. "We're alive." Outside, officers and neighbors slowly realized the danger had passed. But Ryan felt no relief. Because Daniel Harper was still out there somewhere. Watching. The basement evidence filled nearly the entire police station overnight. Boxes of photographs. Videotapes. Maps. Notes. The deeper investigators looked, the worse things became. Ryan sat silently in the evidence room while officers watched the tapes. Nobody spoke much. Some officers looked horrified. Others looked angry. One detective walked out and threw up in the hallway. Daniel Harper had not been kidnapping people for months. He had been doing it for years. Maybe longer. Ryan rubbed his tired eyes. How did nobody see this? Grant whispered. Ryan had no answer. The next morning, Ashton Hills exploded with fear. News vans crowded every street. Parents refused to send kids to school. Stores closed early. People stared suspiciously at neighbors they had trusted for years. And still, Daniel Harper remained missing. Then another terrible discovery came. A hidden map found in Daniel's basement showed several red circles around places outside town. One circle surrounded an old hunting cabin near Gray Lake. Ryan immediately organized a search team. By sunset, police vehicles rolled down a muddy road toward the cabin deep in the woods. The cabin looked abandoned. Broken windows. Rotting wood. A rusty truck parked beside it. Ryan stepped out carefully with his flashlight and gun raised. "Police!" he shouted. No answer. The officers surrounded the cabin slowly. Grant kicked the front door open. The smell inside nearly knocked them backward. Rotten food. Mold. Something worse. Ryan moved carefully through the dark cabin. Then he heard it. A weak sound. A tiny cry. Everyone froze. "Did you hear that?" Grant whispered. The cry came again. Ryan rushed toward the back room. Inside, hidden beneath dirty blankets in the corner, sat Noah Bennett. Alive. The 16-year-old looked pale and terrified. His wrists were tied tightly with rope. The moment Noah saw the officers, he burst into tears. Ryan quickly untied him. "You're safe now," Ryan said softly. Noah shook uncontrollably. "He said you'd never find me," the boy whispered. Ryan's chest tightened. "Where is he now?" Noah looked toward the woods outside the cabin window. "He left yesterday," Noah said weakly. "But he said he was coming back tonight." Ryan and Grant exchanged looks immediately. "He's coming here?" Grant asked. Noah nodded fearfully. Ryan stood up fast. "Set up positions around the property." Night slowly covered the forest as officers hid around the cabin waiting silently. Rain dripped from tree branches. Wind moved through the dark woods. Hours passed. Then finally, headlights appeared between the trees. A truck slowly approached the cabin. Ryan's pulse raced. The truck stopped. The driver's door opened. And Daniel Harper stepped out holding a shotgun. Rain poured through the dark forest as Daniel Harper stood beside his truck holding the shotgun. For a moment, nobody moved. Police officers hid behind trees and rocks around the cabin, waiting for Ryan's signal. Daniel looked older now. Tired. His clean, friendly appearance was gone. His hair was messy. Mud covered his boots. But his eyes still looked cold and empty, like he felt nothing at all. Ryan stepped out slowly from behind a tree. "Daniel!" he shouted. Daniel turned instantly, raising the shotgun. Police lights exploded through the darkness. "Drop the weapon!" officers yelled. Daniel backed away slowly toward the woods. His face showed no fear, only anger. "You should have stayed out of this, Ryan," Daniel said calmly. Ryan kept his gun raised. "It's over." Daniel laughed softly. "No. You're only seeing part of it." Rain dripped from the shotgun barrel as Daniel looked toward the cabin. "You found the boy," he said quietly. "Good for you." Ryan's stomach twisted hearing how calm he sounded. "So many people trusted you," Ryan said. "Why, Daniel? Why do this?" For the first time, emotion flashed across Daniel's face. Anger. "They ignored me my whole life," he snapped. Everybody pretended I didn't exist. His voice grew louder. My father locked me in basements for days. My mother acted like nothing happened. Nobody cared. The officers stayed perfectly still. Daniel pointed the shotgun toward Ryan. And then one day I realized something. Lightning flashed across the sky. Fear makes people notice you. Ryan watched him carefully. Those people didn't deserve what you did. Daniel smiled weakly. You think you're different from me? Ryan frowned. What? Daniel's eyes narrowed. You only cared after bodies appeared. Before that, you ignored the signs too. Ryan felt a chill run through him. Part of what Daniel said was true. The town had trusted him too easily. Nobody looked closer. Nobody asked questions. Daniel slowly backed deeper toward the woods. Don't do this, Ryan warned. But Daniel suddenly raised the shotgun. Boom! The gunshot exploded through the trees. Officers ducked instantly. Ryan fired back as Daniel ran into the forest. Move! Ryan shouted. Police chased him through the muddy woods while thunder crashed overhead. Branches whipped against Ryan's face as he ran. Flashlights bounced wildly through the darkness. Then, boom! Another shotgun blast hit a tree near Ryan's head. Spread out! Grant yelled. Daniel knew these woods well. Too well. He moved fast between the trees, disappearing into shadows. Ryan followed footprints through the mud until he reached the edge of Gray Lake. The water crashed wildly from the storm. Daniel stood near the dock, breathing heavily, shotgun still in his hands. There was nowhere left to run. Police surrounded the area slowly. Ryan stepped forward carefully. It's done, Daniel. Daniel looked out across the lake silently. Then he laughed again. A tired, broken laugh. You know what's funny? He whispered. Ryan said nothing. Daniel lowered the shotgun slightly. For years, people waved at me every morning. He smiled bitterly. They invited me into their homes. His eyes slowly filled with tears. And they never knew who I really was. The rain grew heavier. Ryan kept his weapon steady. Put the gun down. Daniel looked at him one last time. Then suddenly, he turned the shotgun toward himself. No! Ryan shouted. Boom! The sound echoed across the lake. Daniel Harper collapsed onto the wet dock. Silence filled the forest. Only the rain remained. 3 months later, Ashton Hills still felt broken. Flowers covered the memorials for the victims downtown. Parents still held their children a little tighter at night. People locked their doors more often now. Detective Ryan Cole sat alone at his desk staring at the final case files. Daniel Harper was gone. But the damage he caused would never fully disappear. Several missing people were finally found because of the evidence hidden in the basement. Some survived. Others did not. The town slowly began healing, but fear still lived there. Because everybody kept asking the same question. How could someone so normal hide something so dark? Ryan often asked himself that too. He remembered Daniel smiling at neighbors, coaching baseball games, helping old women carry groceries, living an ordinary life, all while hiding terrible secrets beneath his home. One evening, Ryan visited the lake alone. The storm from that night was gone now. The water looked peaceful again. Ryan stood quietly for a long time. Then his phone buzzed. A message from Officer Grant. We found another notebook hidden in Daniel's storage unit. Ryan's chest tightened immediately. What's inside? He typed back. Grant replied only seconds later. And the message made Ryan freeze completely. There are more names.